Are you ready to take your disc golf training to the next level? In today's episode of the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast, we have on our friend David from Seekr Disc Golf, the #1 disc golf training app on the market today. He shares with us how he created this app and just why it's good for disc golfers and how you can improve your own disc golf training and routines. There's an amazing clinic and showcase coming up on January 8th with Ricky Wysocki as well as Gannon Burr in the Kansas City area that we get a little bit of behind the scenes knowledge and learn more about how this event was created, what's going to be happening. The Clankers are going to be there and we're super excited, so make sure you join us if you can. But let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's get into this episode. Let's bring David on the podcast right now.
Hey, my name's David Klasser, and you're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast.
Welcome in everybody to the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast presented by Upper Park Disc Golf. Get the best quality disc golf bags in the game using promo code CLANKERS10 at checkout. There's 2 new bags that are now out for pre-order, the Pinch Pro and the 2023 Shift. These bags look incredible. We're going to be having our reviews of these bags dropping very, very soon. Look into the Pinch Pro, folks, because you can get 31 discs into this bag. You can get some brewskis into this bag. You can do a lot with this bag, and by using our code, you can get it for less than $100. There really is not another bag like it out there on the market. So again, promo code CLANKERS10 at checkout. Save yourself 10%, and it helps the brand out. Super excited for today's episode. We're going to talk about disc golf training. You know, in the off season, we always talk about our goals. We talk about getting better, but what are some tools that can actually help you get better? Today, like you heard him in the intro, we're going to be talking to David. He is the creator behind Seekr Disc Golf, the #1 disc golf training app. David, how are we doing tonight, man?
I'm better than I deserve. How are you, Quinn?
Fantastic. Super excited to have you on here. I think training is kind of the next big thing that disc golf can have. You know, when I was looking over your product, I was thinking back to when I played baseball, and I would be going to these kind of facilities with, you know, the nets up and hitting T-balls and pitching and catching and doing all of those things. And it just kind of reminds me of that a little bit because you're working on putting, you're working on your form, you're working on different kinds of exercises. So super excited to kind of talk more about your brand, your product, and how you're helping disc golfers all around the world improve their game. But let's kind of start off with a little bit about yourself, David. How did you first get into disc golf? When did you first learn about it?
I learned about disc golf about 2.5, 3 years ago. Almost like the pandemic, right? A COVID baby. And I played baseball before that for many years. Just like yourself and maybe a lot of people listening here. I've always been competitive, always loved sports. I would rather go play a sport, whether it be Thanksgiving, you know, tackle football with, you know, your family, something like that, right? That was the thing I did. I would rather play it than watch it. And I found disc golf with a couple of my buddies, maybe like, you know, common stories out there. And I just fell in love with it. Once I saw the disc fly, you know, it's that aha moment, like, wow, this is awesome. This is a great sport. And I played, you know, Frisbee and, you know, did the typical thing on the beach and, you know, throw that. But getting these heavier weighted discs was just an eye-opener. And after watching a couple of Joe Maz videos, you know, I was hooked. And so that started kind of the passion in me to get better at disc golf. And I got really frustrated because at the start, I was terrible, like most, flailing my arms everywhere, which way, you know, doing this, and could barely throw 200 feet. And that started my journey to get much better. So disc golf is just one of those sports that I want everybody to know about. And as I've gone through my journey, I continue to go through my journey. And we can talk about that here in a second. You know, it's something I want everybody to be exposed to. And you start to see more families out there, you know, daughters with their mom even, and sons with their dads, and just the whole group. And you see older people, 85. I just played with an 85-year-old a couple of weeks ago. It's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I can't echo that enough, and that's interesting. You know, you talked about the baseball. What position did you play in baseball?
I played pitcher and shortstop.
Nice. So two things that are probably translated at least a little bit to disc golf. What were you, a lefty or a righty in the box?
I was a righty, right? And,
Okay.
and so I did throw a lot of forehands, of course, when I started playing disc golf. Maybe like
Yeah.
yourself.
I was a lefty, so the backhand hip motion is pretty much the same
Yeah.
for right hand, backhand. So I think I was more onto that. But yes, the forehand has always been there. Maybe it's, hey, that was a bad shot here, bad shot there. But I feel like it's never been a, hey, I don't have a forehand. Like, I feel like you hit the nail on the head. A lot of baseball players always have a forehand when they come in, and sometimes it's almost a little bit of a crutch, like you only throw forehand. Trenton on the podcast has said when he first came in, he only threw forehand, and it was more of a struggle for him to learn backhand, and he pretty much had to give up throwing that forehand in order to learn it. Did you ever kind of have that experience yourself, or were you naturally pretty good at backhand also?
Oh no, backhand was a massive struggle. I remember going through for the year and I had no idea how. It was the most frustrating thing. And that's what really drove me to become a competitive player and then in the future start Seekr disc golf, because I went through this time period of a year where I really leveled up my game just incredibly, because I play competitive baseball. I any sport with the ball, that's me. Like ping pong, tennis, pickleball, soccer. Like I'm there. I'm playing, and so that competitive nature drove me, because I was like, I cannot do this forehand thing as well as I'd like, and I sure can't do backhand. And so that started this year-long journey where I watched all the videos. I just did everything, YouTube, read blogs, and that actually drove me enough to actually go to the pros. And I was not afraid to go message them and say, would you train me? And I paid out of my own pocket money to interview and train with people like Mason Ford, Joel Freeman, Gannon Burr, Casey White. All these individuals took time. Jordan Castro took time out of their own day, and I paid them, and they coached me. And that's why I started Seekr after that, because I leveled up that year like none other. And it was an amazing transformation. And now I have a Seekr Disc Golf Level Up Lab right behind me that my wife so graciously let me build. And it started this whole really what Seekr is doing is we're united in our players. We have over 300 members of our Seekr app and our training method, which is the #1 disc golf training app out there. And we have more thousands of people subscribe to our newsletter. It started this whole journey of what Seekr is and really what we're trying to do. Our enemy, because like most really quality brands, are trying to do something and they're fighting something, right? And our villain, what we're trying to fight, is the undisciplined disc golfer. That's our villain. That's who we have in the crosshairs. We want every disc golfer to be disciplined, to have access to the right training education, because there's a lot of noise out there. And that is creating the undisciplined disc golfer, right? You go out and you say, well, why can't I do this? Well, okay, yes, maybe it's repetitions and you're not practicing enough, right? It's getting that muscle memory, but it's more than that. It's like, are you listening to too much noise out there? There's so much disc golf content, and it can be numbing. And so that's what we're really fighting against, is the undisciplined disc golfer, to say, you can do better and let us show you how, because I lived it. Now, I'm not a pro by any means, but I lived it. I can relate to people, especially our wheelhouse is really beginners, intermediate, and advanced players. And Jose on our team, Jose Osa, he's a 980 rated player. He's phenomenal, and he's our head of instruction. And so him and I really bounced back and forth and built this program, which we call the Seekr method, which is the foundation of the Seekr app and training instruction. So that journey was incredible, and that's why we created Seekr Disc Golf. And it's so important, because the undisciplined disc golfer lives inside of us, and you know it. Everybody listening knows it. And in order to get better and truly have more fun at disc golf, and whether that's competing with friends or actually in a tournament, like it's go time, like beast mode, we know that the undisciplined disc golfer needs to die, and we can become a new disc golfer, and have much more fun in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense to me, and you have to have that discipline in your training if you want to become a better disc golfer. And I really liked what you kind of said about there's a whole lot of noise out there, which is why I'm also going to recommend make sure you guys are subscribing to the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast. If you're new and you haven't listened to any of our content before, we cater ourselves like Seekr here to those newer players, to those beginner, intermediate, rec players that are wanting to improve their game. And so if you want to improve your game alongside us, make sure you subscribe, and you will find endless value through the episodes of learning how to do various disc golf things. Whether it's putting, step putting, jump putting, driving, approaches, all that stuff. So if you haven't, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. But what really I want to dive in first on this story is, what was the first interaction you had with that pro that you were like, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars? What were you expecting to get out of that? Did you, at the end of the day, think you were going to get the return on investment that you got when you initially messaged them?
I don't think so. No, because I knew that it was hard for that. The first interaction was over video, just like this, right? So I knew that I wanted to give back to the players, right? Because I was already invested in the whole industry, right? And that's why I love disc golf. And one of the reasons why is because everybody's just so encouraging, right? Love the culture. I want to give back, right? We're doing a Seekr showcase, which is benefiting the Sake Bomb Foundation, which it's an amazing opportunity for Seekr to sponsor that event. But when I did that first interview, I knew that I still needed to learn to ask the right questions, right? And as I interviewed more players, I really got down in the nitty gritty, right? If you watch the Nacho Libre, he's like the nitty gritty, like that's what I want to get down to, like the true and false. Like, does the disc travel on a straight plane? True or false? Johnny McRae, tell me, true or false? False. Okay, well, why? Like, I wanted to debunk some of the things I heard online. And I do know that there's some subjectivity in disc golf, just like there's subjectivity in baseball and ball golf and volleyball. But I've nailed it down, Quentin, to saying there's 60% that is objective. Like, these are the things you should be doing. You should be hitting the power pocket. You should be going out instead of back on the reach back or the extension. You should have your hips do this. There's 60% that you should be doing. 40% is just subjective. You feel comfortable. Like Isaac Robinson does that little pump before he comes. Like, that's in the 40%. That's that. Do whatever makes you feel comfortable. Matteo pushes the line of the power pocket right up to his like chin, and sometimes, but it's the topper pec area, right? And so that's a little bit more, but there's that 60% that you have to be doing to get better, and you have to force yourself to go through. And that was my journey. Like, I had to force myself. Like, when I was putting, I started putting with my finger way up here at the top, right? And I could only get so good, and I had to force myself to put my finger down here lower because it felt weird and I did terrible, but then I got so much better. So that's part of the 60% that you really must do. And there's subjective parts into it, but from our data and what we've collected, hundreds of students, we've pushed through the Level Up Lab here. It's imperative that you find that 60%. So that's what I had to do as I learned. I wanted specifics as I interviewed each one of the pros, right? And I had to get better each time I asked them. Like, the first couple of interviews, I was like, just like basic stuff. But then I'm like, I'm hungry for more. Like, I really want to know. And sometimes the pros had no idea. And that's what's amazing about disc golf as a sport. It's still in its infancy, and there's not many coaches. And even the pros, I've talked to Wysocki himself, and he knows that he's not a really good coach. He's one of the best players. That he'll tell you right to your face. He says, like, listen, I know I'm not the best coach, and there's probably better disc golf coaches out there than me. And this is so it's that dichotomy of like, does Brett Favre, does Tom Brady need a coach? Or are they just it? No, they need a coach. And so in disc golf, it's the same thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it kind of makes me think about, let's bring it back to baseball real quick. A pitcher's windup, right? There's, you don't have to take your hands and put them over your head and then back to your chest in order to go to the plate. You don't have to kick your leg past your other leg when you're going. You just have to have the basics, and the rest of it is kind of subjective. So I really like how you put that in disc golf, because you will see the more pros that you talk to, heck, the more AMs you see out on the course, you'll see so many different ways to putt, so many different ways to drive. And I do feel as though you're also kind of hitting this sweet spot of, because there's not a lot of coaching right now, it's almost hard to find what that 60-40 is. What is the stuff that's objective comparatively to the stuff that's subjective? Are there any things that kind of come to your mind really quickly that, like, once you heard it, you were like, yes, this needs to go in the objective category and this needs to go into the subjective category?
Yep, a couple things. One, the power pocket area. It's typically between the pec and the belly button. That is 60%. Another 60% is that the shoulder, the elbow, and the hip move together in sync. It's not like the hip first or like the shoulder, like you're trying to I've heard so much about, always lead with the hip. I'm like, no, like out of the thousands of hours I've spent with the reviewing form, and Seekr has the largest library. It's not public, it's to our members and our pro level members. We have Joel Freeman, we have above Seekr sky view footage of them throwing backhand and forehand, and Gannon Burr and Mason Ford and Wysocki and just all these players. And we've reviewed this. It's like, what standard are you reviewing? Okay, it's the pros, right? So like, what's the empirical data, right? So that's another one, 60%. Everything moves together. Another one is coming down with your toe, right? On the X step, like not on your heels, your toe. And the double move, that's another 60%. Like most of the players do what's called the double move, which initiates their hip rotation in their lower core, right? So those are some of the examples. Like it's fact. People do it a little bit slightly different in ways, right? For the double move, that was one of our biggest videos, and it was coined by Slingshot Disc Golf Coach T, and we got flack for that. It's like you just can't argue with the data. You can't argue with the empirical data we have collected and analyzed, Jose and I, and it's really exciting because I think that that measurement 60-40 is a really good standard for us to follow. And we're continuing to learn as new players hit the game, but you'll find out that if you were to review the same footage, you'd be like, wow, I agree with that. And so the question is, how do you get someone to level up their game quickly? It's to teach them that 60% and get them as quickly engulfed in that and leave the other 40% for later. They'll figure it out. Like if you want to do a little pump before you throw, great. It takes some time, but the 60% is what exciting for me within Disc Golf Future.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kind of dive in a little bit more about Seekr. If we haven't done a good job of overarching explaining what it is on a high level, can you just give a basic overview of what Seekr Disc Golf is?
Yep, we create instructional content for disc golfers of any level to level up their game. Okay, and so in the most realistic form right now, that's the Seekr Disc Golf app. It's a private web app, so you can go to seekrdiscgolf.com and you can download this app. It's a monthly recurring subscription, or you can do Seekr Plus, which there's some other things. But the goal is to allow anyone to have access to this thing. And in 60 days, we broke it down to 60 days to learning disc golf. Literally 60 days. Day one, day two. It builds upon each other. And that's us saying, if we were to teach disc golf, how would we teach it? Okay, it's not a bunch of just random videos about how to do this. Like, it is literally structured. We took time based on my own journey, based on other people's journeys, based on the pro. We pull all that together and we say, how would we teach it in 60 days to level up your disc golf game? So it goes through putting, backhand, forehand, shot shaping, game etiquette, all these areas that teach the foundational elements of disc golf. And again, it's structured to build upon each other. We have milestones within that. Each day we have an action item. Go do this and this only, right? In the backhand, we actually don't want you to throw a disc until 5 days into the backhand throw, right? Because we have little drills that we have for you. So what's amazing is like advanced players get as much value as beginners because they're like, oh crap, I learned it wrong. Like, right? I knew I hit a wall. I knew I hit a ceiling. So that's what Seekr Disc Golf is we are the #1 disc golf training app because we have over 300 players subscribed to Seekr. The Seekr method is what we call it, right? Just like you got the Scott Stokely method. And we're not pros here, but we believe that's perfectly fine because it's through my journey, it's through other people's journeys, and then information from the pros, empirical data that we've collected and we've organized it in such a way that we believe we have something special.
Yeah, I love that. And what happens once you've completed those 60 days? Like, is there more for you to do, or is it, hey, you've done the 60 days, you're done, go get them, champ?
Love it. No. So when someone completes the 60 days, there's a couple things that happens. One is a lot of times they go back through it. Okay, but you can only do that so much. So what we've created is called the 18-hole challenge, and it's basically field work. It's making field work sexy again. Right? And they're challenges. So if you go out, you can do it anywhere in the world, right? You just need a basket and an open field, right? And there's 2 challenges per hole. So right now it's called the Foundations course. And so we give you rules and guidelines for hole number 1. It should be 150 feet, draw a 40-foot circle around it, and throw a putter, 5 out of, 10 times. If you make it 5 out of 10 times, you move on to the next hole. And then the new hole appears right after you check off that, right? So, and if you make it all the way to 18 holes, no one has, by the way. No one has. The best they've done is a hole 12, and that people are stuck. Why? Because that information comes from someone like Joel Freeman say, listen, and he told me this. I was pushing him. I'm like, dude, Joel, like, tell me, like, give me actual numbers. Like, he's like, okay, fine. If someone cannot throw a mid-range 250 feet, sidearm, mid, 8 out of 10 times without any wobble, you should never be throwing a drive. Wow, guess what he just said? He blew through every disc golfer in the planet throwing forehand drivers, like the overstable flex, like, or the felons, this one's signed by Ricky. You know what I'm saying? So that just blew through anything. So part of one of the holes, guess what? You have to do that. Like there's things that align. So that challenges even the most skilled players. And you're like, oh, I can do that easy. Okay, go out and do it. We just did a Seekr Disc Golf clinic, and we had this thing 150 feet, okay, from where people were teeing off. And people could hardly get it within a 40-foot circle within 150 feet, throwing forehand and backhand. Like it was ridiculous. And so people, we in our minds were like, oh, we can do that. And then when reality sets in, we can't. So we're here to challenge you. We're here to pull out that undisciplined disc golfer, just shed it off and do things that will really improve our game. And sometimes it's not very fun. So we have the 18-hole challenge. We have the pro interviews that they get access to. So literally all the videos that I went through, not all of them. Some of them I hold dear and close to my heart, but most of all the interviews, we've interviewed Seth Muncie from Disc Golf Strong and just so many different individuals. So the Seekr app is also a community where people can chat about. I know there's Discords and Patreon and stuff, but ours is really special because they're dedicated to becoming a very disciplined disc golfer and someone who's just of high character, who cares about the sport, who doesn't complain. Like that's who Seekr is. That's who we want to attract. So if that's you, I would encourage you to check out Seekr. But that's what we do. So we've tried to make it something for everyone, right? I know we can't ultimately be that, but we're excited to see the disc golf industry grow.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a fantastic product and something that I think a lot of our listeners who are wanting to get better and wanting to improve their game, I definitely think that there can be some value to be had by just at least going out and checking it out and maybe reading some other things and making that decision for yourself. But let's talk a little bit more about this. You know, when I'm looking on your About page, right, it tells me about the 18-hole challenge, form and technique, but it also talks about disc golf workouts and drills. Could you let's talk about the workout side. It's the off season. It's really a great time to get in shape. It's by the time this episode drops, it'll be January. So, you know, everyone's going to the gym. So what are some good what are your top 3 disc golf workouts that you can do right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get into that. So we've partnered with Disc Golf Strong, and they're actually launching at the beginning of the new year. So by this time this launches, you can go in the Seekr app and do mobility and strength exercises for disc golf, right? And we've taken it to the next level with Seekr Fitness, and being able to do workouts specific to disc golf. Like that's awesome. That's exciting, right? And again, we're trying to attract the people who are like, I'm into disc golf, and like I used to play competitive baseball or volleyball as a, you know, FPO or women's, men's sports, like whoever you are, and you're like, I found disc golf, and I'm like, this is my thing now. Like that's who we want to attract. So working out and having a facility like this down here is insurmountable. So a couple of the workouts that I would recommend doing. One is with a band here, right? So you got these bands. These are resistance bands. These are wonderful, right? So one is for the power pocket and the actual back of the shoulders blades here. One of your biggest muscles, right? And that's actually, I'll do a quick little demonstration here maybe. If you were to tie this thing to, you know, a pole or something, right? And you begin to stretch it out and you do the power pocket, right? You come in. You shouldn't be feeling it in your arm. That's the arm is the wrong place, right? In your bicep or tricep. That's the wrong place. You should actually be feeling it in your back of the shoulder. That's how you know you're doing it right, because that's where you get the power. With the double move, that resistance band where everything just stops and it can't go extend any farther, so it has to extend here. You feel it in your muscles. So that's one incredible disc golf workout. Another one is just simple wrist curls, right? Wrist curls. That will help with the strength of your wrist because that's part of the power pocket. And another one is simple balance exercises, right? So when you come up on your back foot to go into the stride of the back, you know, the backhand, right? And you do the extension. It's just simple balancing workouts with some weights. Go down, hold to like weights, or you could get some water cans or gallon, jugs. Slowly come down and come back up and do the extension. Like here, you can't really see my whole video here, but any type of core workouts or balance drills. Disc golf is an athletic sport, and so we can't be a stiff all the time, and we have to maneuver. We have to maneuver through mobility exercises, and it's not all about just getting, big. The three I just shared with you have nothing about getting big and muscular, So those are the three that I recommend right now. But we have a full suite of workouts in the Seekr Disc Golf app, and with Disc Golf Strong, it just makes the whole app even sweeter, and we're really excited to be partnering with them.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, especially I feel as though being on that competitive side and, playing baseball like we both kind of did growing up, you do workouts for baseball that will make you better at baseball, but there's not a lot of resources out there that are, hey, I do this workout for disc golf to make me better at disc golf. Do I just get absolutely yoked this winter and put on 20 pounds of muscle, or what should I be doing that's actually going to help me be a better athlete in disc golf? Because I think there is a certain part of the population that thinks disc golfers are still just hippies and guys and gals out smoking weed and drinking beer, and they're non-athletic. They're just, and maybe your league night at home looks like that. But when you look more towards the professional side and maybe even some of these bigger amateur events as well, you're seeing a lot more guys and gals out there who are acting like athletes. And you have to be an athlete if you want to be able to play for a long time. I mean, 2 rounds of 18 on your body in a day is a lot. If you are not working out, not doing mobility stuff, that's gonna catch up to you eventually, right?
Absolutely. That's what you and I, Quentin, are aligned in. We want to build athletes. We want to be an athlete ourselves, and we want to see the industry grow, and that's how you do it.
Yeah. So I think that's really, really good. I think that's a lot that people can take away from right now, especially if you're in the greater north and you have snow everywhere and you can't go throw a disc. Maybe sometimes it's better to just not throw a disc for a couple of weeks and instead work on your mobility, work on your stretching, work on your strength a little bit. Go for a run on the treadmill if you can't go outside. Like those are some of my goals this offseason, is to be more of an athlete, because something that I struggle with, and I can't determine if it's because I'm not acting like an athlete or I just somehow I'm not drinking enough water, but every single tournament this year, I think at some point in the second round, I was in full body cramps. It didn't matter if I had a Gatorade before. It didn't matter how many bananas I was eating. At some point or another, I would start cramping. And so my mind is now going to the logical state of, okay, I need to work out more and be in shape more if I want to go an entire tournament without cramping. And sometimes that would be when my game would start to tater off, because it's kind of hard to make a 25-foot putt when your entire body is cramping. It makes it just a little bit tougher. So that's definitely one of my goals, is that I want to become more of an athlete. I want to work out more. I've been trying to do that, especially when I go do my field work. I'll try to go for a run afterwards. Today, I did an hour worth of putting, and then I did some strength exercises, but none of them were on the list that you gave, so I need to incorporate those into my own disc golf game and my own workout, and hopefully we'll continue to see some good progress there.
Absolutely. I hope you do. I'm excited to hear your progress too.
So let's continue to talk about your brand. How did you, is this just you came up with the idea yourself? You built the app yourself? Like, how did you kind of go around the idea of building an app, putting everything on there? Like, do you have experience with any of this before? Like, I'm kind of interested in maybe more the businessy, like, how'd you do it? How'd you build it? How'd you promote it? Like, I can only imagine the risks that you had to take in order to make this thing live.
Yeah, it wasn't too surprising if you ask my wife and my friends. Like, I've always been entrepreneurial. I'm a marketing director for a company full time. So I know marketing. That's what I do. Build websites, do all that sort of stuff, right? So I took a marketing approach to it. I built the app myself, did the trainings myself, outlined it. But soon then after, got the Seekr team in and built this great team. Corey, JT, Jose, Brian, incredible people, incredible disc golfers of unique talent and character. So built that a team with them, and it's been wonderful ever since. The app has been just a beast, but it's been incredible to hear the feedback and just to see the lack of what's out there already. It's amazing, because it's so innovative. It's really not. There's other sports that do a better job, probably pickleball or cornhole. I mean, but it's really been overwhelming to see the amount of encouragement we've gotten. We've partnered with incredible brands. Sake Bomb, we're partnered with them. Disc Golf Strong. We actually have a DGN series called the Level Up Lab, which we're filming for right now. And that will be available early February. And just incredible amounts of opportunity and even stuff I can't even share right now. So that has paved the way for for all the progress we've made. So it wasn't something like I'm a video guy. You and I were just talking about podcast stuff even beforehand, and I've got cameras everywhere, and so it's for some it might be difficult. And this is not to toot my own horn, but it's not too difficult for me. And this is just I live it. I get paid for it, and I love it. So the journey has been great, and it's just really cool to see everybody encourage. Probably love listening to Chain Clankers and everything you guys do, Trent and Quentin, and just what you guys stand for. So it's been a fun journey thus far.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And let's get a little bit more into this analysis here. What would you say is the biggest strength and biggest opportunity Seekr Disc Golf has in front of it?
The biggest strength is that we teach the fundamentals and we do it really well. And you can get better at disc golf really quick, like really quick. Biggest opportunity is worldwide domination. I'm a competitive person, and I want to see people win. And so therefore you have to be aggressive in some areas. You have to challenge the status quo. And don't get me wrong. We've had a lot of pushback, and some notable disc golf influencers are not our friends. And I hate that. I wish that it weren't. But we're really excited to see the opportunity, because I keep pushing the button because I want to see people change, and I want to see the disc golf industry grow. And so there has to be certain things. You have to rock the boat in some ways. And in my marketing career, I've already learned that as a marketing director, and in different industries, B2B and all this other boring stuff that people think, are just, it's black holes, like logistics. I was in logistics and, getting something product from point A to point B and parcel and all this shipping stuff. Like, you have to rock the boat sometimes. And when you rock the boat, cockroaches are going to come out, right? But I love the disc golf industry, and I'm so excited for where everybody's going to go. And as it influx of cash come in, influx of people come in, it's only going to get better. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be challenges that are present along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic answer. And maybe you hit on it a little bit in that answer itself, but what would you say is your 5-year goal? Where do you want yourself and Seekr to be in 5 years?
Yeah, in 5 years, we're going to have much more tools open to the public that are free, that someone can use to analyze their own game and compare it with the pros. Like I mentioned, we have the largest library of disc golf slow-mo forums and analysis out there. It's not public. People don't see it, but we have it right now, and our members use it. So we're hoping to open that up more to the public. More tools for analysis. And then we're looking to develop standardized coaching, so that when someone's a disc golfer like you and me, and let's say we're in college or we're outside of college and we're looking for a part-time income, we can use the Seekr method to train students anywhere in the world, right? And use our platform and our tools to be able to do that, right? We want to standardize and be the number one authority when it comes to teaching disc golf. And we go slow, we're building the train slowly. We don't have to rush, because we want to do it well. In 5 years, we'll get there. Matter of fact, sooner than 5 years, we'll get there. 2023 is going to be a big year for Seekr, a big year for disc golf. And I'm really excited, those who have rallied around us, to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And there's a pretty big event that's coming up here pretty quick. I'll let you kind of, spill the tea about the big time disc golf clinic that is coming to the Kansas City area.
Yeah, Quentin, you're coming, which is really exciting because you live only a couple hours away. It's in Kansas City. It's called the Seekr Showcase. We've got Ricky Wysocki and Gannon Burt and Seth Muncie from Disc Golf Strong. There's VIP spots where it is the clinic form, literally teaching, small group teachings, 10 people will be in a room with Ricky Wysocki and learning from him, from Gannon, from Seth, right? It's not just those two, but it's Seth. It's not just Gannon and Ricky, it's Seth, right? And so the mobility, it's very important. That's part of Seekr, who we are. And so we want to build the disc golfer. We want to build the athlete. We want to squash the undisciplined disc golfer out of your body, rip it from our skin. And so you're coming to that, Quentin, and it's going to be a great time. Hangouts, like the biggest disc golf hangout in Kansas City. Hundreds of people will be there. Community, grab a beer. You have a couple putting stations that you'll be competitive with against your peers. And at the end, we're going to have this epic battle between Gannon and Ricky, a putting battle. And it's at a rock climbing gym. So one of the stations they'll be tied in way high, and then they'll be putting down. And people are going to be cheering the blue team versus the red team. And if the red team wins, which is Ricky, everybody gets a prize at the end. So it's going to be just this epic time. And we have a couple more Seekr showcases scheduled for the next year with other pros, touring pros, So hopefully we'll be coming a city near you in the next couple of years, of course. And it's going to be an epic time. I can't wait for you to be there.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I know when we talked about it, this was a opportunity that we wanted to jump on and make sure that we were there filming it, able to put out some cool content around it, because being in Kansas, it's kind of like, oh, wow, these important people are
in the Midwest.
Kansas? That's crazy. They're coming to the Midwest. And it's funny because, Gannon's from Iowa. So like Kansas and Iowa are the same thing, but it's just really cool to see. I just put, if you guys are interested, by the way, real quick plug, if you're interested in fantasy disc golf at all, right? If you're a fantasy football guy, we talked a lot about sports this episode. You want to make sure you stay tuned, because I'm going to make sure the Chain Clankers are putting a lot of fantasy disc golf content out there this year. I just dropped on Twitter, make sure you go follow us over there at Chain Clankers, are my first top 10 rankings this year. And I literally have Ricky Wysocki number 1, Gannon Bird number 2. The amount of knowledge that is going to come from these two players is going to be worth every single dollar you spend to get there. So we're excited that we're able to get there, record some of this content, and produce it and give it out to you guys who are subscribed to us. So we're super excited about that. And I think it's one of those things where there's still maybe a couple tickets available, or are we sold out already?
Sold out of VIP. GA is still there. So if you listen to this before January 8th, you better come down.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is this one of the kind of first showcases that you guys have done? I know you've talked about maybe doing some clinics here and there, but is this kind of really the big showcase, getting these big time pros in here, selling this as a event like this? Is this the first time you've done that?
This is the first Seekr showcase, yes. And it's incredible that we have the best player, arguably the best player right now, or two best, really, honestly, in the tour. And so that's what's really exciting. The story of how we got them is we've partnered with the Sakibom Foundation to help teach disc golf to schools. So Sakibom Foundation, if you're not aware, Sakibom, Ricky Wysocki, he has a nonprofit now, right? And just like Paul Macbeth, and they go and teach disc golf to schools. And so we actually use the Seekr method. So children are learning, and high schools are learning the Seekr method.
Wow.
Right? And this is our, charity work that we do. And that's our mission, right? We're not trying to make money off of them because we want to grow the sport. So partnered through Sakibom Foundation helps, of course. And then we have a Disc Golf Network, DGN, series called the Level Up Lab. And I wanted Ricky to be a part of it. So, on the board, we have friends, board members, Paige Shu on there as well. And we're like, hey, would Ricky ever want to be on this DGN series, right? And then, hey, while you're down here, why don't we just do this showcase? And Gannon, one of the team members on Seekr, Brian, he's the caddy for Gannon. He's been all over with Gannon, and he's built that relationship with Gannon, and I built a relationship through Gannon through Brian. And so we're like, I texted Gannon, I was like, hey, would this be something you'd be interested in, right? Like, you want to come down and be part of DGN? Oh, and by the way, we could do this showcase thing. And so that's who Seekr is. Like, we're trying to be creative and expose anybody who wants to these players and just have a great time for these type of events. And so we'll have more Seekr showcases here in the future. Pros, other older pros, younger pros, maybe Ken Climo, maybe Casey White, maybe Joel Freeman. I mean, there's just a ton you can choose from that we could battle and just have a good time. We have hosted a separate event, which is called the Seekr Level Up Clinic, right? Which is just a general clinic for anybody. And we had a lot of people show up to that, and that was free. But this is the first Seekr showcase, and I kind of pinch myself, honestly, to see like we're doing it, and it's just a God blessed thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And I don't know what I have to personally do, but whatever I can do, I would love to get maybe it's a Saki Foundation, maybe it's Upplay, whomever it is, get some of those cats to come through to Wichita and teach these kids, this community's very strong, growing, and just whatever you can do to get the youth involved in disc golf now, I think is so, so, so important for its long-term success. We've talked about on the podcast so many times of, we had the COVID bump, but we know eventually we're going to see some regression from the COVID bump. The real question, I think, at the end of the day is, did we impact the youth enough? Are we interesting enough? And are those youth kids going to grow up playing disc golf and support disc golf? If the answer is yes, I think disc golf is set up for long-term success. If the answer is no, I think there will be challenges in front of disc golf for many years.
Well, the question is, how do you do that? And you get that love of the game faster, quicker. You cut out the friction points, and that's what Seekr is trying to do, right? We want to make sure you can see that beautiful flight of that disc and that turnover, like whatever it is that the listeners were listening right now. What was it that really brought us into the game? For me, it was the flight. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. I want to do that again and again. That's what you do. Cut the frictions, cut the hurdles, and get them better faster. That's how I believe you really make an impact.
Yeah, and I've said this many times on the podcast before. I hate when I'm bad at things, right? And I don't like being bad at disc golf. It's so hard sometimes, especially when you've been playing for years, and then you do something you're like, I should not be this bad at disc golf. And it's one of those things where I've gotten some of my buddies who maybe they threw the disc around. In high school, we would always go to like the soccer field, and we'd have like a light up Frisbee, and we would play ultimate, but it'd be like 4-on-4 or something like that. Well, then eventually a couple of us went out and played disc golf for the first time. It was okay. I mean, we were throwing, this was in 2016, 2017, but we were throwing discs from like the 80s. One of the dude's dads had 6 discs, enough for all of us to go out in him. And I remember going for the wrong basket and then still throwing it in for a birdie. And I was like, that was so cool. I have to get better at this. Quickly realized I stink at this. And my buddy and I that I'd go and play with every day, we changed the pars because we're like, okay, I know it's 300 feet. If it's 300 feet, it's definitely a par 4. I don't know who's getting this thing in 3. And so it's just so fascinating that when you have that moment that attaches you to disc golf, and then you start to see yourself get better and better, it just gets more fun and more fun, which just kind of builds that passion and that desire and that want to go to continue to play disc golf. So as we close out this episode, I want you guys to think, what was that moment that hooked you playing disc golf? Because maybe somebody took you out for the first time and it was something really cool that they did. Maybe it was something really cool that you did. We would love to hear, what was that moment for you? Comment it down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I'll probably put a Facebook post up for sure and a Twitter one. So reply over there. DM us on Instagram. You know our DMs are always open. I'll respond to anyone and everyone. And before we close this thing out, David, where can people continue to connect with you and Seekr?
Yeah, and I would add exactly to, real quick, remember what brought you into the game and do it for someone else. Share it with someone else. So if it's the flight, pull someone aside and say, look at this flight, or it's whatever that is. Share it with the rest of the community. Seekrdiscgolf.com, Seekr discgolf.com. You can find us on Instagram, of course, but website is the best way to learn about us.
That's awesome, man. Hey, David, thank you so much for your time coming on to the podcast. If you guys want to hear more, we're going to go for another 10, 15 minutes. Check us out on our Patreon, patreon.com/Chain Clankers. We're going to continue this lovely conversation, and we're going to do the ace round with David. So make sure you sign up today, get that, and you can join us on a podcast if you sign up for that Eagle or Ace Club membership. Thank you guys so much for your support as always, and we will see you guys next week.